night as well, no doubt. What happened to Santino? You know what I mean? We didn't see him last week on Raw.
It's sad to say, but it's a good thing we didn't see him because it would have been a bad segment. But God, I used to look forward to him so much when the few times I would watch Raw, I would look forward to his segment more than anything usually. And now he's Hornswoggle. Oh, he's Hornswoggle. He's Eugene. He's a goof. He's nothing.
Yeah, but it's almost good that they don't over-abuse him. You know what I mean? You don't want to overuse him. And
that's why. That's why I said it was almost good that they didn't use him because it's to the point now where you dread every time you see him because you know it's going to be lame-ass comedy. It's not good.
Right. So I don't know. We got Monday Night Raw coming up. What do you want to talk about first? Do you want to go back to let's talk about UFC 101 from this past weekend, and then we'll talk about the WEC show, just the main event.
Just the main event, yeah.
Yeah, and then
especially the WEC. I only saw the main event of WEC. I was watching the Joan Rivers roast.
Joan Rivers.
It was head-to-head with it. Yeah.
Oh no! Was that live?
Well, Rob, yeah. It was taped, but it was the first run of it, and it was Robin from the Howard Stern show. She was one of the roasters, and Jeffrey Ross was there, obviously, and all those people, but. It was good.
What's the one that was always on Stern? What is it, like Lisa Lampanelli? Is that her name? She's off.
Yeah, the Queen of Bean or whatever. Actually, Joan Rivers has a beef with her because Lisa Lampanelli wanted to be the roast master, like the host,
right.
and Joan Rivers wanted to be Kathy Griffin because they're friends. And Lisa Lampanelli was like offended because I think they gave her the spot, and then when Kathy said she could do it, they just said, Lisa, never mind, we're going to have Kathy do it, and she got pissed off.
Oh, come on. Nobody's better than Lisa Minnelli. What is it, Lisa Lampanelli?
Lampanelli, yeah. It's funny when you first see it the first few times. Oh, yeah. I call waiting. Here we go. But no, the first few times I saw her act, it was funny, but it gets boring after a few times you see it. It's the same shit.
Yeah, same old shit every time. No doubt. All right, so we'll kick it off. Like I said, we're going to do UFC 101 from last weekend, and then the WEC, just the main events, and then we'll jump into the Hard Justice, TNA Hard Justice pay-per-view from last night, run that down, give a little Raw preview, and, of course, we've got to talk about the Kurt Angle situation, which broke over the weekend. You know what was funny about that is on, what was it, yesterday I went to the Saratoga horse racing track on the birthday. See, I'm still kicking it, man. I can't sit in the house on my birthday weekend. You know what I mean? Sick or not, you've got to get out of the house. Plus, it's hot as a bitch up here, man. God, 90.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, what?
I'm in northern Florida. Don't be telling me how hot it is in New York right now, okay?
You got an air conditioning down there, man.
Yeah, but I didn't for 2 days last week, as everybody knows. So, I mean, it got hot.
Everybody does know. Everybody does know what happened to Matt Boone last night.
Yeah, my power got cut off. It's quite inconvenient, man.
Did the power get cut off, Matt? But why did the power get cut? Tell us why your power got cut off.
It was a giant, confusing story. I mean, I could do like a Ryan Clark weekend recap of my personal life, but it's kind of pathetic and it's embarrassing. But it was a miscommunication, and we got it fixed. So.
All right. Well, we got you back now, so all is good. All is good in WZR Radio land. All right, UFC 101, Matty Boone. Let's run down what do you want to do, the two main events, Forrest and Anderson, and help me out.
Look what you started in the chat room. My God.
What?
I'm being labeled the guy who doesn't pay his bills now. I paid my bills. Shut up. Just the two main events of UFC 101, because that's been 2 weeks now, right? So.
Yeah,
it was Anderson Silva moving up. He's the middleweight champion, 185 pounds. He moved up to 205 pounds to fight the former champion of that division, Forrest Griffin, and a mega fight. And there was that's the talk of the show right there. That fight. I mean, what did you think? Let me just start there.
Well, Forrest got caught with like a jab. It was like a jab knockout. It seemed kind of.
You know what it was, and I don't think I've seen anybody make the comparison yet. And it wasn't because, okay, I don't even know if you probably don't go back this far. You know I'm a big Muhammad Ali fan, right? Like, that's my hero, Muhammad Ali.
Right.
Okay. So he had this famous fight with Sonny Liston. He was still Cassius Clay back then, right? And he was the underdog. And he comes in, maybe the biggest underdog in history at that point. It was the biggest upset in sports of all time up to that point. And he just dominates Sonny Liston. This guy Sonny Liston was the Mike Tyson of that era, the George Foreman of that era. He was the unbeatable monster, undefeated, knocking everybody out in one round. And Cassius Clay was this young, dancing around, new style of fighter. So he shocks the world. I shook up the world. That's where all that came from. Then they have the rematch. Now he's Muhammad Ali. He's a Muslim. He's no longer Cassius Clay, and they're having the rematch with Sonny Liston. And there's apparently mob threats, or not mob threats, threats from the Muslim nation or whatever the hell they're called. What are they called? Son of a bitch. The Muslim. Oh crap! I'm not gonna remember this.
The Muslims?
Whatever. The Muslims threatened the life of Sonny Liston, as the story goes. So a lot of people think that the fight ended in a dive, but what really happened was something called the anchor punch, but what became known as the phantom punch. It was Muhammad Ali stepping back and just throwing a little light punch. It hit Sonny Liston on the temple, and he goes down, and everybody thought he threw the fight. But that was the same exact punch that Anderson Silva hit Forrest Griffin with. He was backing up.
You could see him wind up and then came forward with just a straight.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
And Forrest was done. Out. You know what I mean?
He waved his hand when he went down. Remember? Oh,
yeah.
The Nation of Islam. That's right. Son of a bitch. I couldn't believe I couldn't remember. All right. Yeah, but yeah, he knocked him out with a jab. No, I seen somebody in the chat say it. They screwed it up, but I got the right one.
All right. All right, so with a jab.
Well, yeah, it was a stepping back jab too. It was an embarrassing way to get knocked out. And Forrest, when he went down, he kind of waved his arm oh Christ.
What do people say? Anderson's back now.
Well, real quick before we get into the post fight stuff, the other big thing out of that fight was Forrest Griffin and the run from Forrest Grump chants, because he as soon as the fight was over, he got out of the cage and just ran up the entranceway and went to the back. He wasn't anywhere to be seen in his locker room because they actually had a camera in his locker room streaming on the internet, and he never went to his locker room. Dana White said at the press conference he never saw him, didn't know where he went. He could be back home for all he knew. He never showed up at the press conference. Nobody's heard from him since to this day still. Managers and people are talking on his behalf, but he has yet to publicly say anything still. So
really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he takes losses hard, man. Remember he cried when Keith Jardine knocked him out? He cried in the cage. Yeah,
that's right. That's right, a while back. Jeez, I didn't hear that. Wow, that's crazy. That I saw him take off out of the ring and said, what's going on here? But I didn't know he skipped the post press conference and all that too.
Yeah, nobody's talked to him since. Except for close friends and probably Dana White and stuff. But yeah, he hasn't talked to the media or anybody yet. Yeah, and everybody's saying Anderson Silva's a killer now, and he's the pound for pound best. I still think it was a style. You heard me. You said, what was it? We were arguing before the fight. You said that we know Anderson Silva won't just come in and murder him because his last two fights they were boring fights and he didn't press the action. And I said, well, that was because those guys are good ground guys, and you can't open up your striking game when you're worried about being taken down. Because you got to think about the takedown and defending that too. So it's another element you got to think about instead of just letting your hands go. With Forrest, I knew Forrest would just come in and strike with him, so Anderson would be completely open to just let his striking go as freely as he wants, and it's what he did, and he just murked him, as you would say. So
now, what happens with Anderson Silva now? Because I know he doesn't want to fight Machida. Were they friends in real life, and they don't want to fight each other?
They're friends and they're training partners, and they're both Brazilian and everything. So, and Anderson's telling it to the media kind of well, he's my friend, and quite frankly, it would be rough for me to try and fight him. But I don't know. I don't know enough about Lyoto yet. It's the perfect fight because Lyoto is undefeated, one of the pound for pound best, and it's a striking style that's very elusive. He likes to avoid striking and attack you when the open, hit and not get hit. Anderson Silva likes to just go balls out and come straight in and try and knock you out. So it would be the perfect blending of styles because Lyoto would be backpedaling and countering while Anderson would just be bum rushing and striking. So they say you'll never see it. I think the more likely fight is Anderson and GSP still, if they can somehow get that put together. But yeah, they say Anderson flat out said he wouldn't fight him. So and Dana disagreed. He said he'll make that fight happen if they keep winning.
Yeah, I think the fight that everybody wants to see. That would be undefeated versus undefeated. You know what I mean?
Who?
Silva versus Machida.
He's not undefeated, man.
Well, Silva's not undefeated.
In the UFC, he's undefeated.
In the UFC, yeah. In the UFC.
Lyoto's undefeated altogether. He's 15-0.
Yeah, but when they show the records on the pay-per-views, they use the UFC record. I mean,
no. They use his MMA record. They acknowledge the losses, but they just don't highlight them. You know.
Right.
When they say his record, I don't even know what it is off the top of my head. They say 21, 3-1, or whatever the hell it is. So I mean, he's lost a couple.
Are you sure they don't announce Anderson Silva as being undefeated? Undefeated.
No.
Well, they always
they
say
mention his
undefeated
streak.
in UFC.
They mention his streak because he's got the record for the longest undefeated streak in UFC history. So they say that all the time. Joe Rogan always builds that because he beat Royce Gracie. It was like 9 fights, and he's got 10 or 11 now in a row. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And then in the co-main event of UFC 100, we had. God help me out here, boy.
BJ Penn versus Kenny Florian for the lightweight title. Penn just did him. You know, it ended in the 4th round by rear naked choke. What happened was Florian. He tried to use the same game plan GSP used in the fight we saw at UFC 94, the rematch.
Right.
What he doesn't understand is GSP is a big welterweight fighting a blown-up lightweight in BJ Penn. Kenny Florian is a normal-sized lightweight, and BJ Penn's actually bigger than he is. So the strategy of trying to wrestle into him and grind him around and get him tired is not going to work because you're not big enough. You're not really doing it. You're the one expending all the energy. You're not making him tired. He's barely having to defend your takedowns because you're not a wrestler either. So that was his game plan. It didn't work. He tried it for 3 rounds to just stay close and wrestle him and clinch and tire him out. BJ didn't get tired. And in the 4th round, he finally just took him down, mounted him, and choked him within seconds. So.
I have got to tell you, Matty Boone, I am sweating profusely. This is ridiculous. I don't have any air conditioning.
Look at you, profusely. Where did you get that word?
Well, I mean, I learned it from you, baby. I learned it from But no, this is brutal, man. I mean, I'm sitting here with sweat just pouring off my face.
Well, the guy that doesn't, the guy that doesn't pay his bills or whatever, he's quite comfortable. It's actually a little chilly in here. I'm wearing shorts. I'm starting to get a little nippy in here. I had to turn my fan off before we started. I don't know about you up there.
Just, must be nice, my man. Must be nice. I'm
luxurious. It's relaxing.
This is painful to have to sit here and do this with the voice too, but no doubt we're tearing it up. All right, so that's you. I mean,
luckily our audio quality is so crappy. It sounds like our voices are breaking up when we sound normal. So
no. The problem is the pre-show music.
I know. I'm making a joke.
Yeah, the music is just horrible before we come on the air. We're working on that. We're trying to get some software.
Big Boone's back in town. I think I'm gonna have to fix this up or something because I don't like it either. I get it now that I've been trying to promote the show to my mixed martial arts audience to try and diversify our fan group here so they don't bitch every time we talk about a fight, because we like talking about fights. Jesus Christ. So,
you got us hooked up today on MMAnews.com, your MMA website. So basically what we're trying to do, as Boone just said, we're trying to get the MMA fans and the wrestling fans combined,
unite them.
We need to unite them, but it's not an easy crossover. We've talked about this before.
It is. Where you would think it is, but really not at all.
I know.
And not only is it not a crossover, but the wrestling fans love wrestling and hate MMA, and the MMA fans love MMA and hate wrestling. It's not like, wrestling. They're like, fucking wrestling, They hate it, and vice versa, It's crazy. But what are you going to do?
I mean, how could a wrestling fan, a fan of wrestling that likes the in-ring work, all that stuff, maybe it's the storylines that they like in wrestling, but the UFC and the MMA is so much more, and it's more real, you know what I mean? Maybe as you grow older, I mean, we have a lot of younger fans as well, you know what I mean? Actually, God, what is it, 5 o'clock, 5:30 on the East Coast? Some of those kids out in California aren't even out of school yet, you know what I mean?
No. Is school still in? I never remember when school ends now. Is it August or July?
When I used to live in Colorado, so the kids don't start back to school here until early September, probably that first or second week in September. But when I was out in Colorado, they used to start around my birthday, which would be right about now, you know what I mean? So it's different. It's different from the East Coast to the